Last year, there were more than 50,000 shootings in the United States, and more than 25% of those shootings were fatal. In Philadelphia, where gun homicides have reached a 3-year high, 2 researchers are launching a citywide study that they think can save the lives of more shooting victims. Antonia Hilton went to find out how.
It has been one of the most violent nights in Philadelphia in our memory. 6 killings in 6 separate neighborhoods. They are the mean streets of Philadelphia tonight.
When a shooting victim is rushed to the hospital by ambulance, they are usually treated with what's called advanced life support, which includes IVs, breathing tubes, and defibrillators. But 2 trauma surgeons at Temple University Hospital in Philadelphia believe that if paramedics and EMTs switch to only basic life support, which involves less invasive techniques, more lives would be saved.
To someone who's not a part of the medical world, that can sound a little bit counterintuitive.
For this patient population, less is more. Now, we've seen it when less is performed in the field, whether it's putting in a breathing tube or putting an intravenous line in. For patients that have been shot and have significant injuries, those patients actually do worse when they've had those interventions.
Evidence suggests that advanced tools like IVs and breathing tubes can actually harm shooting victims by preventing blood clots and decreasing circulation. But in order for Goldberg and Marr to prove their hypothesis, they need to test it on a human population. The experiment, which begins this fall and will last several years, randomizes gunshot cases citywide into 2 groups, with 50% of patients receiving advanced life support and 50% receiving basic. The Food and Drug Administration, or FDA, usually requires that researchers obtain explicit consent before conducting any tests on human subjects. But this study has been granted an exception.
It is true that you cannot use standard prospective informed consent for this kind of trial. Delay of medical care to request informed consent is ethically wrong. Because of that, the federal government's actually got a set of guidelines which are called exception from informed consent. And one of the requirements for this sort of research is that you go out and you do this community consultation. So you talk to folks in the community, people who are at risk for inclusion in the study.
Studying gunshot victims in Philadelphia means studying mostly young Black men. And the medical profession has a dark history of using Black people as the subjects of dangerous experiments. So Temple University has engaged community leaders to try to lessen any suspicion.
Without question. I mean, there's a fear. When you think of the Tuskegee experiment and things of that nature, you think that we're always going to be victims in minority and poor communities. Yeah. And they'll just use us as tests. But here we go. We have an opportunity to try to improve on tragedies that are happening. So if it has the slim chance of making it better, it's a worthwhile study.
We're, having to confront this history of ours. And, we don't ignore that history. Yes, it's a reality. This was the American experience. But we're not going to allow that legacy to get in the way of saving more people in the future. When they first hear we're talking about taking away this advanced life support, there are some reservations. But I think based on kind of the experiences that we've had here talking to this community, by the time we're finished laying out the case, they get it.
We talked to people in Hunting Park, a neighborhood with high levels of gun violence, to see what they had heard.
There's a new trauma care study out of Temple University that focuses on neighborhoods like this one. Have you heard anything about it?
No, ma'am.
How many people here would you bet know about this study?
Not that many.
What were your first reactions when you heard about it?
To be honest, I don't agree with it.
Do you know how it works to opt out of this study?
No, I don't.
There's a place you can go online and state that, and then you can wear a bracelet that says, I'm somebody who doesn't want to be part of the study. Now that you hear that, is that something that you would consider doing? Do you want to opt out of the study?
I would.
A lot more education needs to be done around this whole study. The study could come out to be negative, I guess. It could be a total reverse. I don't know that. They don't know that.
What happens in the event that your hypothesis is wrong?
Well, if the hypothesis is wrong, then we change our practice. And then we're really very glad that we did the study.
We're actually doing the thing we're studying every single day, and we have been day in and day out for a very long time. All we're modifying is the way that we are able to capture data so that we can prove that that's actually the sole difference. So, to be honest with you, I do not feel that we're taking a risk.
And we shouldn't wait. Because the homicide rate is up, because the shootings are up, we shouldn't wait at all. And not just here in Philadelphia, but in Chicago, and in Detroit, and in Atlanta, and in LA, and all over this country where people are being shot. As trauma surgeons, this is what we can do. And this is why we're doing the study.